Shanahan called a great game. I have no problem with what Shanahan called. I really don't. And I think the criticism on him is he is becoming a victim of his own genius. He took a team led by Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback to the Super Bowl. And because of that, now we have this expectation with a coach who he never had the most quarterback talent at his disposal to win almost every single year. I mean, he's been to 4 NFC Championship games?
Yes.
He's been to 2 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. The one year they didn't make the NFC Championship game was the year that they were hurt. Their entire roster got hurt. Yeah. Brock Purdy, last pick in the draft, for as good as he's become, he was the last pick in the draft. He was a legitimate MVP candidate for a lot of people for the majority of the season and could have won it had it not been for a meltdown against Baltimore. Kyle Shanahan has elevated every quarterback that's walked in through his doors. And talking about adapting, Shanahan has adapted his system completely. Shanahan does not run the same stuff that he ran with Jimmy Garoppolo back then. This is a more pass-heavy offense, and he's kind of gone away of his roots of being just a traditional under-center running football team. There's a lot of shotgun passes. The 49ers had 33 series in this game. 16 started with rushes. They had a 56.2% series conversion rate. 17 started with the pass. They had an 82.4% series conversion rate. Kyle Shanahan called a balanced game. Both the run and the pass were working. The pass was working much more, and you can argue that maybe he should have leaned into that more. But a criticism I saw after the game was that he should have ran the ball more with CMC. And the numbers across the board show that they were passing it far more efficiently. And CMC on 3rd and 4 in overtime, he got stuffed on 2nd and 4, and that's why they passed it on 3rd and 4, and Chris Jones just went unblocked. This is a team that, you look at the offensive line outside Trent Williams, it's not a talented unit. It's not. They're susceptible, and he's turned the last pick in the draft into a top 5 statistical quarterback. He's developed Debo, Kittle, Ayuk. I mean, this guy's a mastermind, and he's the greatest coach currently that hasn't won a Super Bowl yet. He's a mastermind. He's a genius. And I feel like all criticism that's going towards him
is
lazy because, look, you just run into Mahomes. That's just what it is. He's run into Mahomes twice, and he's lost twice. And we see you can play a near-perfect game, and the margin for error is just so slim.
The Super Bowls he's lost have been the Tom Brady and Belichick, Mahomes and Andy Reid. And we've seen this for a while now. I think if you use common sense, this Super Bowl does not fall on Kyle Shanahan. He's not the one that botched a punt inside their own 20-yard line that led to a touchdown a play later. He's not the one that fumbled after 3 first downs in the first drive. I mean, when you are going up against this Chiefs defense, on the first drive, you have 4 plays march down the field. It's like a boxing match, but you're kicking the shit out of your opponent in the first 2 minutes. And then CMC fumbles. That was a 3 to 7 points win right there, and the amount of momentum they lost. Despite the Chiefs not scoring, they had 3 straight passing first downs, moving and grooving. I'm thinking to myself, what is going on? I'm like, we're a minute into the game. They're about to score a touchdown. And he's also not the one, in spite of all of that got the PAT blocked. In spite of all of those turnovers, they still would have won if that PAT was not blocked. And then in overtime, people criticize him. And Reid pointed this out. I don't really think there's a right way to go. A lot of people said he should have elected to kick off. And if that's the case, let's say you both score touchdowns. It is next point wins. If the Chiefs get the ball next and they get a field goal, you don't get to match it. So I don't think there was a right or wrong answer with the decision to elect to receive. Partly because I don't think you want to put the pressure on Brock Purdy to say, you know what, Mahomes scored a touchdown. Okay, now go match that touchdown. That's too much to me. And I felt this was a great play calling game. The same thing in the 2020 Super Bowl. That was not on him. You talk about the Jimmy Garoppolo miss. How many third downs did Garoppolo not read the field and got sacked because he could not make the open throw to the open receiver? A couple of times. And then dating back to that Super Bowl with the Falcons, after Julio Jones' 27-yard catch outside the sideline, the next 2 plays, Matt Ryan takes a 12-yard sack, and then they throw an 8-yard gain. Jake Matthews has a 10-yard penalty. That's 18 yards lost right there. They don't get to kick a field goal. They don't get the chance in that Super Bowl to ice it with 4 minutes left. They have to punch the Patriots, who get a 2-point conversion, take the game to overtime, beat them. I think Kyle Shanahan's the most unlucky coach. Yesterday, I was with my brother and our entire family, and I said, I think Kyle Shanahan's the best coach in football because of what he's done at the quarterback position. They said that's an incorrect opinion. I'm like, every year he goes to the playoffs, he goes to the NFC Championship game. He does not have Patrick Mahomes. He is the best offensive play designer in football, And I really do feel for him. He deserves a Super Bowl. And I think a lot of guys in this Niners team did. And a lot of the criticism that they're getting right now has been unfair.
He's a victim of his own success. Yeah. You know, when you win that much, when he's still one of the younger coaches in the NFL, he's one of the best offense coordinators in Atlanta. Then he comes here and there's success almost immediately. Yeah. And that's what he's running into. I'm not the first person to say this, but he's been getting compared to Eagles Andy Reid, where, you know, we knew Andy Reid was one of the best coaches in the NFL, but the one stick against him was he can't win the big game. When he gets to the big moment, he's not able to, at least number one, it took him a few years to get to the Super Bowl. Then when he get to the Super Bowl, he wasn't able to win it. Of course, you go to Kansas City, you draft Patrick Mahomes, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, he can win the big game. He just got Patrick Mahomes now. And a bit of a difference because I do think Shanahan's probably been playing with lesser talent than even Reid had with McNabb and even, you know, a year or two of Michael Vick when he came back to the NFL. But the fact that he's doing this with the limited quarterback play he's had between Jimmy Garoppolo, all the injuries he's sustained through his career, now Brock Purdy, it's easy to sit up here and be like, he's just not clutch. He just blows leads. He doesn't have a feel for the game. You're up 10-0. How do you not win this game? But it's hard when you look at the opposition. You say, well, he's gone up against the two greatest quarterbacks of our lifetime and that the sport has ever seen. And he's fallen short and just short, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you're up 28-3 in one of those games. Probably should have won that game. You're up 10 points in that fourth quarter. Yeah. The first time against the Chiefs, if Jimmy G makes that throw, you win that game.
A couple of throws, though, was more than one he missed.
Yeah, and even, I'm saying the Emmanuel Sanders throw. But of course, there was
Jimmy
multiple
G stinks,
throws.
Man.
He's not great. But you can make the same comment about if Brock Purdy makes that throw to Debo, if he makes the throw on third down. So it's hard for me to really blame Shanahan where they were in a situation to win this game. Brock Purdy had chances to go out there, and if he was, no disrespect to him, if he was Josh Allen, if he was one of these top quarterbacks that we don't put in the Mahomes conversation, but it's like a tier below Mahomes, where like this is a superhuman type quarterback, they probably make those throws.
And there's one more thing too. On that play where Chris Jones gets a free pressure, I want to pull up the play right now. Cole McKivitz is blocking a ghost. I mean, this 49ers offense line's not that good either. I mean, all game long I was waiting for Chris Jones. I want to show Dells this play.
Just Dells.
It's 3rd and 4 because he can see it. He's close to me. But Cole McKivitz blocks nobody, and he's trying to get the end. Look at him right here.
Yeah. This was pretty well disguised, though. It ends up being cover zero. You weren't expecting to be cover zero.
Mike McGlinchey would have put Chris Jones on his ass. All I'm saying.
No, he wouldn't have.
I don't know. That's another thing that I think Shanahan did a good job with. They're getting rid of the ball sorry.
Go ahead.
They're getting rid of the ball so quickly that I was able to kind of shield those limitations at tackle on the right side of the offensive line. So, I mean, this 49ers team was far and away the most talented in football, but they had some holes in the secondary, at safety, at tackle. It wasn't a complete team, and I feel like their window slowly starts to close. Brock Purdy's in the last year of his rookie deal next year, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that's going to be their big ticket. But after that, you look at this 49ers timeline and say to yourself, Trey Lance.
Isn't it 4 years?
I think
check.
I think it's 2 more years because you get 4 years, so you get 2 more years.
We're here,
Even
man.
better.
Relax, John. You're getting a little ahead of yourself.
You're going to have to pay Brandon Ayuk and a couple of other players in that defense, I'd imagine.
I think what you're trying to refer to is that Brock Purdy, because he was the last pick in the draft and not undrafted, if he was undrafted, he would have been eligible for a contract extension after this year. Yeah. Next year is when he's eligible for one. So, of course, based off how Brock Purdy, the numbers he's put up, how he's played, he's going to demand a contract extension after next year. Mm-hmm. So the Niners have one more year to decide if we are going to accumulate all this money to this quarterback and then now build out our roster moving forward. Which, that's a tough decision. It is.
I think you have 2 years.
I know Purdy more than most at the table, and it strikes me as a guy he'd take a friendly. That's just me personally, though.
This is also his one chance to really cash in and change his whole family's life. And
I think it's already changed, man.
Huh?
I think it's already changed.
I gotta ask.
He signed to it.
Can you guys?
He's making less than $1 million a year.
Yeah, that is fucking nuts.
He lives in San Francisco. So.
Hey man, 20 mil is cool.
In San Francisco, he's not even
$100K to live there.
Drew's talking here, man. Let's give him a listen.
Oh, we forgot he was here.
So one thing. Can you guys ask John why he doesn't want to hear me? And
no,
two,
Drew. I'm sorry. I can hear you, but it hurts my ears when I have the headset on. I don't want to be disrespectful.
So you don't know what he's saying at all, actually.
No, I can hear him because he speaks loud enough and projects well enough. But it hurts my ears, so I had to take it off. I didn't mean to be offensive. I'm sorry.
That's hilarious.
Drew, I do want to hear you, and I can. I just want to let you know.
All right. And the second thing I want to say is, Joel, you're saying that, if he were just a notch better, that he'd make these plays. Now, he answers a touchdown drive by the Chiefs with a touchdown drive of his own in the fourth quarter. He later in that quarter goes and, although not a touchdown, does put his team in field goal range where they go and they kick the go-ahead field goal. Putting up 10 points in the fourth quarter, I'm not looking at him as the reason why, hey, if he were just a little bit better. I understand your sentiment in terms of there's specific moments where that last play in overtime where if he were a little bit more athletic, he could have scrambled out, gotten away from Chris Jones, not rushed the throw. But at the same time, I mean, look at that Bills game where Chris Jones gets pressure on Josh Allen and it kind of rushes Josh Allen to make that throw, right? We gave credit to Chris Jones in that moment because Chris Jones is an elite defender. I'm not looking at Purdy in that moment and thinking, man, if he were just a little bit more athletic, if he were just a little bit better, he would have made that play. I find myself throughout the entirety of these playoffs consistently giving credit to the Chiefs defense. You have to go out there and execute. When you make and you step up the way that they did, we've talked about how McDuffie played at an MVP-esque level in the Super Bowl. Chris Jones, of course, having the impact that he did. I feel like I'm not my takeaway from this, especially in that fourth quarter in OT, is that, man, I just wish that Brock Purdy was just a little bit better. To me, he did a job. And yeah, he fell short, and that's unfortunate. But at the same time, he left the field not once, but twice with the lead.
Well, listen, I don't think Brock Purdy played a bad game. I thought, he did enough to win the game. It's as simple as that. And I think, especially in this matchup, if Brock Purdy would have lost to the Lions and the Packers, this is a different thing.
Yeah, agreed.
But every team has lost to the Chiefs.